All right. So hello there. I am Raj Pabari. I'm super excited to be speaking to you all today. I know that some of you are tuning in offline and some of you are here on the Zoom call. So thank you to everybody who's watching this. And today I'm going to be talking about social entrepreneurship, which is a type of entrepreneurship and business. And you might be wondering, what is that? I hope that by the end of this, you'll know what it is. That's my goal. So before I get into what is social entrepreneurship, I'd like to introduce myself. So I am a social entrepreneurship. I believe that every venture is an opportunity to serve a broader purpose. And I started a while ago. So at 10 years old, I founded my first company and it was called iTutor. And basically what we did is it was actually just me at the time, iTutor, and I helped senior citizens learn how to use their devices because as a 10-year-old kid, um, you know, what do I know how to do? I know how to tinker around on my phone and my tablet. And so I thought, hey, I could make a business out of this. And so I helped some seniors that needed help. And that kind of got me hooked on entrepreneurship. That plus Shark Tank, the first time that I got that like first payment from the senior uh, in iTutor after helping them with their devices, I was pretty happy as a young person. I was like 10 years old. I got like 20 bucks. I could go to the store and buy some candy, and I was pretty happy. So that got me hooked. And since then, my companies have evolved. But I'm still a student. I'm a high school senior at Classical Academy High School here in Escondido, California. And I'm a normal kid. I like to do things for fun. I'm the captain of the robotics team. I'm the president of the debate team. I love trivia. I watch Jeopardy all the time. And I also am into like the stock market and my I guess my like work passion is programming. I love coding. It's one of my favorite things. And I will give Simran, I'll put it in the chat, the link to the slides here, and a link to connect with me on LinkedIn. So you can access, if you'd like to connect with me, I'd be happy to on LinkedIn, Instagram, or Facebook. So you'll have those links through the link in the slides. Okay, so now onto my companies. Talking about business, you should probably know what my businesses are. The first company that I'm currently operating is tutorsforgood.com. This is different than iTutor. It's a new company that I founded in March 2020. And what we offer is peer-to-peer tutoring that is virtual and online. This was founded because of the COVID-19 pandemic, because of school closures and people kind of falling behind with their academics. And we have a unique business model that makes it tutoring for good, where we offer 30 minutes of free tutoring every week. And then after that, if students need additional help in the same week, they can then pay for further tutoring. So this way we can help students that are in need and can't afford to pay, this because they can come back every week and get the free 30 minutes. But if you can't afford to pay and you'd like to support Tutors for Good, then we have the option to continue to help you in the same week, and you can pay, and it's still a business. We've been recognized in news and media for our social impact, and it's all featured on our website. So this is tutorsforgood.com is the first company that I'm currently operating. And the second company is Off Grid Technologies. And what we are doing at Off Grid Technologies is we are creating the OG charger, which is a portable charger that uses the power of running water to charge your devices. So I'll show you a prototype just to show you what's happening. So this is a prototype, and this water turbine unfolds, and then you'd put this in a stream. So a stream would be running like this, and that would spin around this turbine, which charges up a battery in here and allows you to plug in your phone or your other devices. So it's an alternative to like solar packs, those little solar batteries. And it's meant for more hardcore campers that need the power to be generated. And this is about the size of a water bottle. So it's nice and compact. And we've won through Off-Grid Tech, we've won many local and global business pitch competitions. And we are being incubated right now through the Rec Innovation Lab. So the Rec Innovation Lab is a local incubator that gives us resources to help develop our company. And we've been invited to apply, and we have applied now for US government research and development funding for this technology. They've expressed an interest in it, and we're hoping to have a partnership with them in developing that charger. So, all right, that's a little bit about me. I'm the CEO of a tutoring company and a charger tech company. So now, what are we going to talk about today? So 5 things. We are first going to talk about the types of capitalism. Types of capitalism. What types of capitalism are there? We'll get there. Then what is social entrepreneurship? I'm sure that's the question on your minds. Then we'll give some examples of social enterprises, not like Enterprise from Star Trek. It's like companies, enterprises. And then social impact throughout your business, how when you're starting companies or you're involved in management of companies, how you can incorporate a social impact. And then finally, got like a load of resources on social entrepreneurship if you'd like to further your learning. So my first question for the audience is, what is capitalism? And I would like you to, if you could put it in the chat or say it out loud, what is capitalism? And you at home, maybe you're saying it out loud like right now, like what is capitalism? Somebody want to tell me what's capitalism?
Hongshi, do you want to give it a go?
Yeah, sure, of course. So capitalism is I would say it's like the market, like the capital accumulation, the competitive markets, and also like the system, like the financial system.
Okay, I like a lot of that. So we have competition and we have markets. I like that. Anybody else want to give it a try, or should I just go for it? All right, we have a quiet crowd today. Okay, so what is capitalism? That was pretty good. So it's the short phrase is that the capitalism is the free market economy. So that's the key words. And basically in capitalism, companies are free to set their own price for the products, and customers are free to decide whether or not they want to buy at that price. So in that sense, capitalism is self-regulating, because if you're going to be charging like, I don't know, $1,000 for a little bottle of water, nobody's going to buy that. So in that sense, because customers are free to buy and companies are free to set their price, capitalism kind of regulates itself. But the thing that a lot of people don't know is that capitalism is practiced differently around the world. So in America, the form of capitalism that we practice is very different than the form of capitalism that is practiced in Scandinavia. And that's different from what's practiced in India and in Russia. So all of these different societies around the world have developed around capitalism, but carry it out in substantially different ways. Another thing that you might not initially realize is that capitalism doesn't necessarily go hand in hand with democracy. You do usually think of like capitalism, we're in America, it's a free country, and democracy and capitalism, they go hand in hand. But China is an example of a quite successful capitalist society that is got a primacy in a lot of areas and market sectors that is kind of far from a democracy. So it's not necessarily that capitalism and democracy go together. So there are different types of capitalism, and that's what we're going to investigate here, is how these different flavors of capitalism, what they are and the benefits and cons of each of them. And you get to choose as a business person, and when you enter the workforce or when you start companies, what form of capitalism you will employ in your business. And this is, in my opinion, the single most important decision that you will make, because in the future, all of the other decisions that you make in your business and all the smaller decisions will be influenced by your principles, or what you decide, what form of capitalism you would like to employ. And that'll become clear how you can do that as we continue here. So types of capitalism. Type 1 is shareholder capitalism. So shareholder capitalism, shareholders are the owners of your business. And shareholder capitalism says that the sole purpose of business is to make money for the shareholders. So when you, another word for shares is stocks. So when you are publicly trading your company on the stock market, you are publicly trading shares. So that is what a share is of a company. And shareholder primacy is what dictates shareholder capitalism. And this term, shareholder primacy, says that shareholders come first above all others. So if you're prime, you've got primacy, you're on top. And everything that you do as a business person is dictated by your shareholders. So shareholders could be people that own shares on the stock market, or it could be investors, or it could be other founders. All of these people can be shareholders, and again, they own a portion of your company. So when did this come about, right? It makes sense to kind of go back in history and see, where did shareholder capitalism come from? And the major place where it came from was in the 1970s from economists. So Milton Friedman is the major thinker that was advocating for shareholder capitalism. And he actually won the Nobel Prize in 1962 for this idea of shareholder capitalism. And in 1970, this article in the New York Times by Milton Friedman became really, really popular, called "The Social Responsibility of Business is to Increase Its Profits." So just think about that, just even the title, it's an interesting read, but if you just don't get anything else from it except for the title, it's saying that the only responsibility of business is to make money. That's shareholder capitalism. And shareholder capitalism is what's practiced in the majority of the United States today, is that the purpose of business is just to make money for the business executives. That's it. And it started in 1970 and it's been going ever since then. So doing quote unquote good things within your business were considered as stealing or robbing from your shareholders. For instance, if you wanted to host like a work party to boost your morale, or you wanted to take measures to reduce environmental impact, or give raises so that your employees could earn living wages, these things were considered stealing because you are taking the money from the shareholders and giving it to the workers or giving it to benefit the environment, instead of the social responsibility, according to shareholder capitalism, is to increase the profits of the shareholders. So you need to pay your workers the minimum amount possible just so that they will stay with the company. And that's why, this is one of the major reasons why the wages today are so low among so many workers. This is one of the reasons why minimum wage laws had to be created, because people would be working for extremely low wages. So who likes this? The people that like this are the shareholders, right? The shareholders that own stakes in companies. This is wealthy people and rich business owners. Those are the people that benefit from this, because if everybody's just working to make you rich, you're probably going to get rich if you're a shareholder. And this is how companies operate today. So is this a good thing or a bad thing? I will let you decide for yourself, but here are some things that make this good or bad. Shareholder capitalism is good if your only concern is making money. And honestly, this can be a good choice for you. If your only concern is to line your pockets, shareholder capitalism is probably right for you. And honestly, some people, if there's 20 people watching this, I'm sure that a handful of you will choose to do this. And it is, if you just want to fit in, using shareholder capitalism is great, because this is the de facto standard for how companies operate today. So it's fine to do this. And that's why nobody will judge you for that, I guess. And here's an example of shareholder capitalism in practice, is doing the bare minimum to meet environmental regulations. So if you've heard of ExxonMobil, like Mobil gas stations are from ExxonMobil. It's one of the largest oil and gas companies. And they have paid $1.5 billion in environmental fines. So this means that they thought that it was cheaper to not comply with the environmental regulations and instead to just pay the fines. So they would rather pollute the environment and pay a fine, because it's going to save them more money than actually helping the environment. So if that's okay with you, then shareholder capitalism is good. In my opinion, that's not great. Future generations exist, like your kids and your grandkids will probably not be benefited by ExxonMobil paying fines instead of helping the environment, but it's up to you. Additionally, I mentioned this, reducing the wages of workers and increasing profits. The statistic for this is that the average CEO is paid $21.3 million per year, while the average worker makes $67,000 per year. So that means that CEOs on average make 320 times more than workers in their industry. That's a lot more. That's what you get when companies only try to benefit shareholders and not necessarily workers. And that means that shareholder capitalism has worked. This has benefited the shareholders, and it has indeed worked. Okay, so I said that there were different types of capitalism. There's an alternative to this. And if you feel like you want to pursue an alternative, here it is. It's stakeholder capitalism. So stakeholder capitalism, this was actually practiced earlier than shareholder capitalism. Before Milton Friedman became influential, stakeholder capitalism was what was practiced in America. In the early 1900s is when stakeholder capitalism started, and it was practiced in America until about the 1960s. In 1960s, that's when shareholder capitalism began to rise in popularity. And stakeholder capitalism is associated with a decrease in income inequality, or in other words, the wealth is more evenly distributed between the business executives and the regular workers. So I'll point you to this graph here. If you can see that starting in 1910 and 1940, the actual statistic that it's measuring is unimportant. It's kind of confusing, but just if it's higher, there's more income inequality. If it's lower, there's less income inequality. That's the takeaway from this. So you can see 1910 to about 1940, it's high, and then it dips in 1940, and that's mostly because of the Great Depression. And then it stays reasonably low until about 1960 and 1970, when it starts to dramatically increase. And that change in 1960 and 1970 is shareholder capitalism. So it's one of the causes of income inequality rising and it makes sense, right? If you are pushing shareholder capitalism, which is just to line the pockets of business executives, of course, income inequality is going to increase because business executives are going to get richer. So it makes sense that this is true, and it's backed up by statistics. So what is stakeholder capitalism? Stakeholder capitalism is benefiting the stakeholders. And so the difference between stakeholders and shareholders is that stakeholders are just any people that are affected by the operation of your business. So they don't necessarily have to own a portion of the business. As long as they're affected by your business, they are stakeholders. So, for example, stakeholders could be employees, or stakeholder could even be the environment. Stakeholders could be your customers, the people that you serve. Stakeholders could be the suppliers, who you get stuff from, or the community in which your business operates. And there's many more stakeholders. Anybody or anything that is affected by you doing business is a stakeholder. And the environment doesn't own a share of your company. So in shareholder capitalism, the environment or benefit to the environment is completely ignored. But in stakeholder capitalism, you take these things into account and you try to have a more positive impact on society. For example, in the Scandinavian countries, in Scandinavia, they practice a different flavor of capitalism, and they have no minimum wage. And the reason why is because I'd say one of the reasons why, it's a little bit more complicated than this, but I'll just say that they practice a form of stakeholder capitalism where the companies just pay their workers living wages. They don't need a minimum wage because the companies practice stakeholder capitalism to some degree, and they just pay their workers. They don't need the minimum wage laws because they don't practice the same form of capitalism that companies do in the United States. In the United States, you try to pay your workers as little as possible if you're practicing shareholder capitalism. But in Scandinavian countries, you're practicing stakeholder capitalism, and you pay employees a reasonable wage because they are one of your stakeholders. So stakeholder capitalism is an alternative where you benefit more people and you make a better impact on society. And I will mention the last thing on stakeholder capitalism is that stakeholder capitalist companies are still profitable, because if you're not making money, then you don't have a job. You're not going to last very long just volunteering your entire life for no pay, because you're probably not going to have a house or food. So you do need to make money in stakeholder capitalist companies. And a lot of the same principles that dictate shareholder capitalist companies still apply to stakeholder capitalism. You still need to be buying goods and then selling them at a marked up price. But then what you do and some of the decisions that you make along the line will change if you're practicing stakeholder capitalism versus shareholder capitalism. Okay, so stakeholder capitalism, good or bad? Here are some statistics for you. So the first is conscious consumers. So consumers notice this stuff, and especially in the modern day where there's an increased amount of transparency as to what happens in businesses. People care about this stuff. The people that are buying your products care. So the statistic is that 66% of adults are willing to pay more for an ethical product than an unethical product. And like the existence of Whole Foods is a clear example of their entire marketing is based around doing good for the world and organic foods, and why that's better than other stores. So people do care about this stuff. Otherwise, Whole Foods would not be in business. The next is conscious team members. Is that when you have a company that is dictated by principles that benefit a number of people, your employees or other team members kind of gravitate to that. And I've seen that in my own companies, that now not only do I have a team that's dedicated to working on a charger, but we have a team that's dedicated to a mission to make the world a better place. And those teams are the ones that stick together rather than a team that's just trying to make a piece of plastic to make some money, in my opinion, at least. Then the next one is investment. So people have to invest in your company, and there are opportunities for investment in stakeholder capitalist companies. And these are called impact investors. So impact investors are the type of investors, you might have heard of venture capitalists or VCs. Those are for shareholder capitalist companies, and they're just trying to make some money. Impact investors are investing not only to make some money, but also to make a social impact and benefit the world. So 67% of impact investors are looking for high growth companies. They're not looking for charities, and they're not looking for nonprofits. They're looking for companies that will make money, but also make an impact. And 99% of impact investments performed at or above expectations in impact. So if you do get funded, not only will you hopefully make money, but there's a very good chance 99% of companies do make a positive impact that are funded by impact investors. And then the next thing is going public. So at the end of the road, if you're lucky enough to be able to have an IPO and go public on the stock exchange, most of the stock exchanges you think about are for shareholder capitalist companies. So like the NASDAQ, the Dow Jones, those are, and the New York Stock Exchange, those are for shareholder capitalist companies. But there's an alternative that's coming up. This is the long-term stock exchange, which is meant for a long-term impact companies that are stakeholder capitalists mostly. And then in the near term, when you form your company, you can have a B corporation, which is an alternative to a C corporation. This is the way that your company is formed. And a B corporation has certain principles that are built into the articles of incorporation that dictate the company, that say you're allowed to make social impact. And this gives companies the legal flexibility to do the things that I've outlined in stakeholder capitalism. And then I'll end this with a quote. I mentioned that there is this has been around for a while, right? Milton Friedman was a 1970s dude, and Henry Ford was way before that. And he says that there's one rule for the industrialist, and that is make the best quality of goods possible at the lowest cost possible, but paying the highest wages possible. So this has existed for a long time. And I'll let you decide whether you would like to pursue stakeholder or shareholder capitalism. So, okay, that's the types of capitalism. And now the question is, what is social entrepreneurship? Because that's what this topic is. That's what this talk is about. So what is it? Social entrepreneurship is a way to carry out stakeholder capitalism. So this is what I practice. I practice stakeholder capitalism, and I am a social entrepreneur. The simple way that I explain social entrepreneurship, if you ask me, hey, Raj, what's social entrepreneurship? It's business to make the world a better place. It's still business. You still need to make money, but at the same time, you are striving to make the world a better place. Social enterprises are not charities, and they're not necessarily nonprofits. You can still make money. And the reason why is that you're making money so that you can make a social impact with the profit. And then, in my opinion, that social impact is going to fuel additional profit. And that's because of conscious consumers and conscious team members, et cetera. The business fundamentals and the things that you learn if you go to, get an MBA or you have some education in business, they all stay the same because you still need to make a profit. And then the way that you use that profit is a little bit different in social business, social enterprise than it is with a regular company. So social entrepreneurship is a way to carry out that stakeholder capitalism. So now just to add even more clarity, I'll give you some examples of real companies that are social enterprises that you can kind of look up to. So the first is Tom's Shoes. And Tom's Shoes, this is one of the classics. Tom's Shoes is the pioneer of the buy one, give one model. So this is a model where you buy a pair of shoes from Tom's, and for every pair of shoes that you buy, they donate a pair of shoes to children that are in need. So just a quick thing is that Tom's Shoes, so the word Tom's, there's nobody named Tom. It's actually a combination of the word tomorrow and shoes. So then it's tomorrow's shoes, Tom's. The founder of Tom's Shoes is Blake Mycoskie, not Tom. So there's not really a Tom involved there, just a fun fact. And Tom's Shoes is very successful with this buy one, give one model. And they became super popular. They were definitely, I wouldn't say a fad, but they were a fad. They were super popular for a period of time. And today they have a $250 million annual revenue, which is massive. It shows that this sort of a model can be successful. 95 million pairs of shoes have been given by Tom's Shoes since 2006, which is not only shows that they're not only making money, but they're also making a profit. And recently they changed their model. So not only are they giving shoes now, but they're going to donate $1 for every $3 in profit. And this is giving them a fund that allows more stuff than just shoes. They now donate eyeglasses, backpacks, and different types of shoes. So they do other stuff now, and they're making an impact. The idea of Tom's Shoes in this business model is that for every sale, there's some donation. And that is a really innovative business model. Tom's Shoes pioneered that. And that has facilitated not only a social impact, but also a profitable company. So that's number one. Number two is Graystone Bakery. And this is one that okay, there we go, Graystone Bakery. So this is one that is less heard of. And Graystone Bakery is interesting because they have the open hiring policy. And this is a bakery in New York City. And the interesting part about it is their open hiring policy. And what that is that if you want to get a job at Graystone Bakery making brownies, then or whatever, they make other stuff, but primarily they make brownies. And if you want to get a job, they have a list of people that are in line to get a job. and you just have to write your name on that list, and that's it. And the deal is that they will hire you no matter your background. So this includes like people that have a history of drug use or formerly incarcerated people, people that used to be in prison, so like former inmates. They will hire you. They don't care about your background as long as you are willing to work for Graystone Bakery. And that's a really unique thing, because if you've ever gotten a job, like a part-time job, you know that they conduct a substantial amount of background checks. And this makes it really hard for people with I guess not, I wouldn't say like they're kind of shifty backgrounds, or like you were previously in prison. So a lot of people will just immediately not want to hire you. Graystone Bakery provides an opportunity for former inmates to get a job. And it's definitely innovative and interesting. And on face, it might seem scary, and it might seem like, why is that really going to be helpful? Well, here are some statistics that might show you why it's helpful. So the first is that Graystone Bakery does $20 million in annual revenue. So just on face, they're doing something right, because they're making a lot of money. And then also they supply brownies to companies like Ben & Jerry's and Whole Foods. So I don't remember which flavor of ice cream, but one of the Ben & Jerry's flavors has got brownies in them, and all of those brownies come from Graystone Bakery. So because of Graystone Bakery's positive impact that they have on the community, Ben & Jerry's and Whole Foods have chosen them as suppliers for brownies. So bigger companies have realized these people are making a positive impact. We want these people to be making our brownies. Their company motto, I love this, is we don't hire people to bake brownies, we bake brownies to hire people. This shows that they're putting the people first, and they're putting the impact that they're making first above the brownies. That's a very nice statement. And then on the business side, aside from giving people that would not be able to re-enter society and find work a new job, on the business side, their open hiring policy is actually really profitable for them. Their turnover rate, or in other words, the amount of people that like leave their job and then you have to replace them with new workers, is only 33%, which is compared to a 42% US average. This means that Graystone Bakery spends less time getting new people on board and training new employees, which reduces their costs, because it costs a lot of money to hire and train a new employee. And it also improves their efficiency, because they don't have to waste time training people. Instead, there's more people that stay with them and continue to work. So this is what I mentioned earlier that I've experienced in my companies, that when you're giving people a job that wouldn't be able to find work elsewhere, they stick to you, and they're staying with you partially because of the social mission, and partially because you're giving them an opportunity that they're grateful for. Graystone Bakery creates a great community. And on the actual numbers of this, they receive $644 per new hire, and that's from on average, that's from government tax credits, because for hiring people with disabilities and with a history of drug use and formerly incarcerated people, the government actually gives Graystone Bakery a stipend or some money, and on average that sums to $644 per new hire. And then with that supplement, they only spend about $1,500 to onboard a new hire. So in contrast, the US average is $4,000. So they're saving a substantial amount of money, because they don't have to perform background checks, and they receive from the government. And so they not only have to train less people, but then when they do train people, it costs them less. So bottom line is, this open hiring policy, not only does it make a positive impact, but it's very smart in the sense that it makes money and profits the company as well. It gets people working again for society, which is good. And the takeaway that I want you to have from this is that simple policies to do good. It's a very, very simple thing. It can have far-reaching benefits both on the business side and on the impact side. Okay, one more example here is It's the biggest retailer of organic foods. So does anybody want to take a guess? What is the biggest retailer of organic foods in America? Say it out loud, put it in the chat. Whole Foods or Sprouts? Those are indeed good guesses. What do you think, Simran?
Yeah, I was gonna say Whole Foods.
Yeah, Whole Foods. That's a great guess. And Trader Joe's. Yep, I like Trader Joe's. It's also a great guess. And I think the answer will surprise you then. It's Walmart. So yeah, you're right. You're like, everybody's like, Whole Foods, like it makes sense. But Walmart is actually the biggest retailer of organic foods. And it's just strange because Walmart doesn't go around with a positive impact painted on their sleeve like Whole Food does, right? And so Walmart is an example of stakeholder capitalism that is still primarily driven by profit. And Walmart is it's a C corporation, and they make an impact, but they constantly justify it by making money. So here are some statistics about Walmart. Is that 29% of operations are powered by renewable energy, which saves them $1 billion per year. Because you can think about, on the scale that Walmart operates, 29% of their operations being powered by renewables will save them a ton of money because they have so many stores across the country. Additionally, Walmart is using and selling sustainable products. So they're using lower emission light bulbs in their buildings and in their stores. And they have like ethically sourced foods. And again, they're selling organic foods. Walmart is targeting a market of people that don't really care about the social impact aspect of it, because the people that really care, they go usually not to Walmart to buy their foods and to buy their stuff. But by selling these people these products at a reasonable price, they're making a social impact without many people even realizing it. So that's who they're appealing to. And it makes it quite interesting. So the takeaway here is that even if you do have a business that is primarily driven by profit and really wants to make money like Walmart, you can do more and talk less like Walmart does, because Walmart has quietly become the retail sustainability leader. They've quietly led this charge of making more ethical practices in their stores. So those are three examples, very different examples of sustainable companies. So we're at 11. Okay, cool. All right, so now in your company, this is kind of, what do you do with this information now, right? I want to always give you ways that you can do this yourself. So if you're starting a company, it's really you need to be thoughtful about this, but in terms of actually getting started with this, it's not so hard to be a stakeholder capitalist or a social entrepreneur. So the first thing that you need to do is to choose an area to make a social impact. So choosing that area is something that you're passionate about. Everybody is passionate about different things. It could be the environment. It could be Tom's Shoes donates shoes. So they were passionate about a lack of shoes. And that's something that that the founder, Blake Mycoskie, personally experienced on a trip. It could be to benefit workers, the formerly incarcerated people, right? That was Graystone. There's different areas to make a social impact. The next thing is to write a purpose and mission statement and to come up with policies to accomplish that mission. So first, write out a statement. What do you want to do? How do you want to make an impact? And then figure out, okay, now that I know what I want to do, how am I going to do that? So in my company, what am I going to do? Example from my company in Tutors for Good, I first came up with, okay, I want to help accomplish or bridge the gap in learning, in the sense that people are not getting the same quality of education at the pandemic. So I want to help teach people more at an affordable price. And then the policy, how does that get accomplished? That's with the free session every week, the free 30 minutes every week. So start with what do you want to do, and then how are you going to do it? The next thing I'll say is you need to think big and think different. There's no problem too small for you to make a dent in. And the way that you accomplish that can be in a totally unique way. Oftentimes, the best companies and the best business models are the unique ones, not the ones that have been done before. So this is the generation of people that are able to think big and think different in their companies. So I strongly encourage you to open up your eyes, look around, and use those brains of yours to come up with innovative policies. And then some examples of how you can do this is that you need to go from end to end, right? Because stakeholders are anybody or anything that is affected by your company. So all the way from sourcing, sustainably sourced materials are one way to make a social impact. In production, who is making your stuff? Who is manufacturing it? Is it child laborers, or is it made in the USA, or is it made with fair labor practices in mind? Packaging. How are you packaging your products? Are you using biodegradable packaging? Within your workplace, what are your equity and inclusion policies like? And how do you benefit the people that are working for you and your employees? In your business model, the business model is how you make money and how you sell products. Tom's Shoes has that innovative business model of buy one, give one. And so if you can come up with a way that every time that you make money, you're making a social impact as well, that's a way to integrate it into your business model. Within your within your product itself. So with the charger, we're using the power of running water, which is a renewable energy source, to generate electricity. We could have made like a butane torch generator, but that would not have been a very sustainable product. Instead, we chose to use renewable energy. And then finally, in profit, what do you do with your profit? Once you make money, you just kind of put it in your pocket and take it home and then run away with it? Like, what are you actually going to do with your profit? You can make an impact with that as well. I will say is that you should integrate social impact into your business concept. So if you are founding a company, right from the beginning, integrate your social impact. Don't make it an afterthought, or it would be best to avoid making it an afterthought. Of course, you can think about it later if you don't have something immediately, but it's clear when you're selling a product like, I don't know, I'm selling calculators, and then I'm also going to donate 2% of my profits. It's clear that you haven't really thought through the social impact aspect of your company, and you're just trying to do something to make yourself look good. So you don't want to do that. If you're going to make a social impact, be genuine about it, and people notice and care about that. And the final thing is that you should keep your choice of stakeholder or shareholder capitalism. So where we started this whole thing is, do you want to practice shareholder capitalism, which benefits primarily the shareholders, people who own the company, or stakeholder capitalism, everybody that is affected by the operation of your company? And whatever you choose there, keep that in mind whenever you're making business decisions. And I believe that if you are always guided by those principles whenever you're making important business decisions, that you can't go wrong. Because you will always, if you're choosing stakeholder capitalism, you'll always choose the option that benefits the people that are affected by your business. And if you choose shareholder capitalism, you will always choose the option that makes you the most money. And so whatever your goal is, whatever form of capitalism you'd like to practice, keep that in mind whenever you're making important business decisions. All right, so here are some resources. Again, I'll put the link to the slides in the chat, and you can look at these resources. And yeah, that's all I've got. So thank you so much. And I'm happy to answer any questions. We've got a little bit of time left. So if any of you have questions, let me know.
Thank you, Raj. That was very, very informative. And I know that from like our past experiences too in the Thai program, learned so much from you, because you're an amazing individual who's just like I don't know, the way you present things too is just very entertaining. I have a question if no one has any. I know I've asked this before, but I think just like it can be super overwhelming even like at a young age because we all are, like pretty much all high schoolers, I believe. Yeah. So managing like, your ambitions to be an entrepreneur, but also having like your high school experience and just like having a life on the other hand. But also I know you I don't know, you didn't talk that much about it, but your different like companies and ambitions and like things that you're doing on the side. So like how is like your day-to-day life doing that? Yeah. And then Katie
Yeah,
asked a question too. Yeah.
that's a good question. I try to balance I mean, I'm not the best at balancing, I'll say, but my best tip would be to use Google Calendar. That's or some sort of calendar app or physical calendar. Everything that I do pretty much is scheduled on there. And I always also block off time for like breaks, because like some of them are like shorter breaks in the middle of the day, like and then some of them are like longer breaks, just kind of chunks of time. The way I operate personally is I try to like work and then just like take a break for a long time. So like I'll take like Friday afternoon off. I'm not doing anything tomorrow afternoon. If you need me tomorrow afternoon, probably not going to get an answer. And so I mean, that's how I operate, and I seem to enjoy that. The other thing that I do is I run almost every morning, every weekday at least, and that's a good time for me to clear my head. So I'll wake up. Over the summer, I've been waking up at about 5:15 a.m. and I've been going on runs, and that is helpful to me. Just gives me like every day I know that I have a good start to my day. It's the same thing. I've got some routine, and it really helps clear my head. So those are some tips, I guess.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I think I would also advise using like Google Calendar, some sort of like organizational database to like help put your, because it can get pretty overwhelming, like having like meetings after meetings and like having that one location to kind of put everything into one place. It's also, I think, it gives you less anxiety and stress knowing that like you don't have to like be searching everywhere to be like, oh, I had this meeting at this one time. But yeah, I completely agree with you. And I think that is great, whatever you're doing. But yeah, Katie asked a question and she said, what are your tips when getting into stocks and the stock market?
Yes. So my recommendation is that stocks, so the saying, right, is buy low, sell high, right? Everybody knows that, but the way to look at it is over a very long term. So the famous investor Warren Buffett has got a lot of really good tips and sayings, and if you follow his methodology, I think that you are almost sure to make money. But the gist of it is that you want to buy now when you're a kid, and in 20 to 30 years, when you are ready to when you need the money that you've invested now, you can sell the stocks, and it's almost guaranteed that you will have made a substantial amount of money. Because if you look at the stock exchanges like the Dow Jones, NASDAQ, and you zoom out on a 10 to 20 to 30 year scale, all of them are trending substantially up. And the small recessions and stuff, those only affect on like a 5-year scale or a 5-day scale. And if you look that closely at it and you follow the news really closely, then that's what kind of gets you tripped up. So like I wouldn't advise you to go on to like I don't know exactly what it is because I don't do this, like Reddit stocks or whatever. I wouldn't advise that. Do some good research, find companies that you think will be around and profitable in 20 to 30 years, and buy those is my advice.
Okay, thank you, Raj. I have several other questions. So one question is that, do you think like the government will help support like the companies doing like social impact and sustainable actions?
Yes, I do. And it's to some degree, and you can be smart about the way that you approach your company. in such a way that you can let the government help you. So for instance, with the charger company, I could have just be building this charger and, do it on my own, but I've found I've caught the interest of the government, and they've invited our company to apply for a research and development grant where they would fund the development of this technology, basically pay us to make it. And that's it's called the SBIR program. SBIR program. And that is one way where you could get some government assistance if they're interested in your technology. And some other ways. So I mean, that's one way, is that you can do that, try to get the government to fund it, and that's a way for the government to invest in private companies, research and development. The other way is there's, for the specific policies that you have, there might be credits that you can get. For instance, if you generate more solar power than you use, the government will pay you because you'll donate that power back to the energy grid. And Graystone Bakery, they get paid every time they hire somebody that has difficulty getting a job otherwise. So they get some credit for that. And yeah, those are some tips. I mean, you have to be smart about it. The government has set out some ways that they'll fund what you're doing and help you out. And so you can choose things to do that align with what they're funding. Does that make sense?
Okay, well, that makes sense. And I have another question. So it's when you're talking about stakeholder capitalism, you mentioned income equality. Do you think there's any way for a company to implement income equality in their strategies?
Yes, I'm just putting in the chat. I'm putting in the chat my book recommendation on this topic. That's to the person who asked. It's by Mal Warwick and somebody else I can't remember offhand, but The Business Solution to Poverty. So companies addressing income inequality. Yes, that's the major way you can do that is through wages. And one of I think probably the biggest expense on your income statement is wages. So paying people reasonable wages, giving them bonuses and incentives to doing well is the way that at a business level, you can take steps to address income inequality, because income inequality happens when the CEOs and the top executives take a disproportionate share of the profits and don't reinvest those profits back into the company. So providing generous benefit packages and giving wages that are earned will help not only people stay with your company, but also help to address income inequality to some respect.
Okay, thank you. And here's another question proposed by Nadine. Do you have any tips or experiences with starting a small business?
Yeah, I have. I have a lot of experience. I would say, I hope that you believe I have experience. Do I have tips? My tip is to just get started. Is my advice. When you have an idea for a small business, just start it. And if it doesn't work out, either you lose interest or you there's ways that you can see what does not working out mean. But if it doesn't work out, it's okay. But just getting started, trying stuff, and seeing and then evaluating, is it going to work, is the best way to do it. Because if you don't try stuff, then nothing's going to happen. So if I didn't make the website tutorsforgood.com, initially I just made it I was being pressured into doing it by my friends that were asking me for help, and I was like, all right, I'm going to do this. I made it, and then it evolved from there. If I didn't start, I wouldn't be where I am now. And if I didn't start making the first prototype of the charger, just because it was something I was interested in, and then it wouldn't have evolved to the place where it is now. So my advice is, when you have ideas and you have passions, just get started, and you'll see as you keep going the impact is.
Cool, thank you. Does everyone else have any other questions? Oh, by the way, Raj, so I'm just wondering, can you share about your experience on like college application? Because I feel like your experiences are pretty amazing. And I feel like I'm also a current a rising senior. So I'm wondering, do you have any like recommendations or like any like, tips for the college application?
Yeah, I'm a rising high school senior, so I'm figuring it out. I won't give advice because I don't know what I'm doing is gonna like work out or not. But yeah, I'm just trying to like start working early on stuff because the more time the better, and having people read my stuff is also gonna help. My biggest concern with college apps is that I can speak to people and I like to meet people and talk to them. I just want to make sure that that comes across in like whatever I write. Um, and so that's my goal as I'm trying to give my essays to people that know me and like see, does this come across? Like, you know me, like, is this coming across? So I don't know. We'll see how it works out.
Cool, of course, definitely. Same for me. Yeah. Cool. Then I guess then we are done, right? Everyone else, any questions? Thank you for coming to our course. It's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I appreciate the invitation, and I'm happy to help out.
Cool. Yay. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Raj. Okay, I'm gonna stop the recording now.